Good morning everyone, how are you all? Just thought I'd come on today and show you this little bird. I've been playing with him for a little while. I've got plans to use this guy in an up and coming project. I wouldn't mind another one for another project, and this little fellow, he's yet to find a home. He's just came because I went rummaging in my scrap bucket and found this little piece of fabric, which is an old pair of shorts, this little bit of gold, and there's the blue. So that's how that little guy came to be. But what I wanted to do today is just show you in one video how I made him, because as I refer to this guy in other videos, at least I've got one video to show you how he came to be. So what you'll need is background fabric. You'll need some sewing machine thread, nice and fine. He's only small. You could use a thicker thread, but at this stage I'm just using sewing machine thread, and some fabric. So in this one, I'm going to choose something from this little pack of French General fabric. Now, the little bird himself. Now, you would have seen around quilt blocks that have images within them. So I've seen rabbits, I've seen turtles, I've seen ladies, and lots and lots and lots of little birds. You may already own a quilt book that has a bird. I know there's a sparrow out there with a shorter tail and a more rounded tummy. There's heaps, there's butterflies, there's all sorts. My twist that I'm putting on it is, instead of doing the traditional way of cutting and joining all of these on a sewing machine to make a block for a quilt, I'm using him as a decorative element to add into a slow stitch piece. And he is cut out using the pattern, but then placed onto the fabric and just stitched down. So really simple, gives you the quilted look. I'm absolutely loving him. So I'm not too worried that I'm making another one, because I think these are just going to be handy to have. If you recall, I did a dragonfly series where I just made different coloured dragonflies to be used as elements to add to slow stitch projects. So that's how this came to be. So little blue boy, he's going to appear on a tote bag later in the month, connected to the Roxy Journal of Stitchery project prompt, which is a bag for the month. This little guy, like I said, he has no home yet. This little guy, I'd like to add him to my Easter panel that I started with the rabbit. So let's start. Let me just get everything out of the way. Let's put that needle aside because we don't need it. Now, there's probably a couple ways you can approach this. Now, this pattern is downloadable from Charming Tribe. It's actually part of a big quilt, which you can buy the whole pattern to create this huge quilt. But the guys at Charming Tribe have put together just how to prepare this one block, which you can download as a free tutorial, but there's heaps of them out there. If you type in bird quilt pattern free, you can, you'll find something, and different shapes and styles of doing them. See, she's tells you how to put all the little blocks together to create him. I couldn't think of anything more fiddly to get the sewing machine out and do that. So when I saw it, I thought, aren't you just the cutest? I thought, I wonder if I can do him like this. So what I am going to do is show you the technique. So we don't need that. I did a photocopy of the one page. This one's a little dark, but it'll suffice. I should be able to work it out. That's my reference. Let me just zoom up a little bit so you can see what I can see. That's my reference point, and this is where we get started. So we need to cut out all of the little blocks very carefully. You don't want to mess them up. Now you could, I was thinking about this overnight, being that I've made a couple now, I'm starting to think, oh, I wonder if you could do this, I wonder if you could do that. You could create yourself a little block that maybe is a hard plastic material or hard card, you know, some card stock that is the square you want. So this is where you could really play and make the square as big or as small as you like. So in this case, this little guy's square is, looking at that, 1 3/4. No, 3/4 of an inch. So 1 3/4. Read the ruler, girl. Probably just a little bit more. It's not quite an inch. So imagine that bigger or smaller would be quite a lot of fun. So if you got yourself a basic square, for example, here's one here, at whatever size you want. Let's say you have a piece where you only want a little bird, you reduce that down, and then away you go. It'd be fiddly, but it'd be a lot of fun. Now I'm going to use some glue to help me hold him into position, but you could certainly pin him into position. You could use the quilter's basting glue. I don't have one here to show you, but it's similar to this paper glue. It's a glue stick. I'd even use that at a push if I was, you know, traveling and I didn't have a glue suitable. But I'm going to use art glitter glue. The main reason is I love the nib on it. It's got a pointy little end. I used to use it a lot with when I was making journals and things, because it dries very, very quickly. I don't know how good it is for your health, mind you. I'm not 100% sure on that. I hate to think what's in it, but like all glues, you should try and keep them, you know, away from your body as much as possible. So if you're not doing the square idea where you just cut out a generic shape and then follow the pattern, this is your next choice. This is what I've been doing. So I'm cutting him now apart. I got rid of all the excess and I'm just going to lay him down as I go, being very conscious of do not mess up the pattern. Like, you can easily figure it back out, but you know, if you take your time and try not to. See, I nearly jiggered it there. I'm cutting these into strips just so I keep my wits about me and I don't make a mess. Now, looking at some of the examples of people's work with these little guys, there seems to be 3 colours used, which is what I've done so far, and it seemed to have worked out really well. So he's still in position, yep. So now we can start breaking down. So his head through to his tail, in this image is the darker colour, is one colour. His tummy and his wing, let me bring this into position as I talk, you can see him. His tummy and that little wing at the back is another colour. And I've picked a lighter colour, so he's got like a, you know, a little golden belly. And then he's got this last wing, which can be quite a feature, hence why I put the blue on. Now, when I did the blue little bird, I used a jelly roll of fabrics that were all in the same tone. So I sort of had to look for something that gave me the distinct difference. Even though those two are very similar, it still worked because there was at least, oh, there's a square we don't need. This one up the top, so he's excess to requirements. There's no reason why you couldn't use those squares and put him on a background of squares. That'd look rather cool. Hadn't thought of that till now. Oh, hold on, what have we got happening here? What did I do? See, this is what I mean by making sure you don't mess it up. That goes there. Is that right? See, it's so easy to do. Try your darndest to keep them straight. Otherwise, when I've made my first one, I numbered them all, and that was a bit laborious. So when I made my next one, it was about a month between them, I thought, well, if I just lay them out and have a mud map as well, that if for some reason this gets messed up, I can still refer to that. So yeah, what I was saying is, even though they're all tonal, it still works because it's come from a pack of fabric that are all connected. So I'm happy with those. Now, let's have a look here and see what we can find. Oh, I don't really want to pull this apart. You know how it is when you take these fabrics out, you can never get them back. So I'm looking for smallish print, I believe, that would suit a little bird or like that. But I think I want to be down in the reds. Do I? I don't know. I do like that. I do like that for a red tummy. Then a red wing. Oh, I'm a bit drawn to that. Pull those out. Oh, of course I've pulled more out than I need. Oh. See, this one here came out and I couldn't get it back in. Now I've got more out. Oh, give up, girl. So I could use the cream. So if that's his tummy, we're going to go darker for his tummy, like a robin redbreast. That's his wing. We need something for his back. I don't mind that. It's very regal. I'm trying to find one that's got a smallish print, just to keep it size-wise. You know, if it's a really big print on the fabric, it might look a little odd. I don't mind that mustardy tone. These are great little packs to pick up if you're somewhere where you just can't get hold of recycled fabrics and you are literally have to shop online. I don't even mind that. It'll be a choice. Here we go. Pull more out. Make a mess. So you could just make so many of these little guys. The opportunities and the colour combinations. So I definitely want that for his tummy. I want that for his big feature wing. But we just need something for his head. I think it needs to be, oh, I don't know. Maybe we start building him and we'll come back to his head because I can't decide. I'm just not sure. So, and I've got a background piece of fabric. Now, in the past, I just sort of grabbed a scrap as well, but I'm pretty sure I really like the top of this and I want to include this on my piece. So I'm going to be a bit tricky and try and get him exactly where I need him so he's ready to go straight onto my piece. So I might even give myself a few marks before I get started. So his little tail comes down here. That's a heat-soluble pen, so don't panic if you're thinking, oh gosh, the girl's drawing on a fabric. Yeah, so he will sit right there. Okay, we're ready. So like I said, you could make a heap of these and then they're ready to go for different projects. Now, what you gotta do is we're gonna do his tummy first, I think. You pick up one of your squares and you're going to cut it out. Now you have a couple options. If you make yourself a firm little template, you could draw around it like so. But that's to me a little fiddly. woodwork, like so, or you pin that little square to your fabric, or like I've been doing, just hold it in position and snip, snip, done. Remembering this is a slow stitch version of a classic quilted bird. So as for the detail and the precision required, it's not required because we got those sort of soft edges. So see how I'm holding it? Easy, easy, easy. Now, looking back at where this piece is going, there, we only need half of it. So I'm going to cut it. All right, we'll keep that because maybe it can be used again. Yes, it can. Look up there. So here's our little chest. We'll just pop him there for now, being that we're not 100% sure of positioning. Once we sort of get that beak in line, we can start attaching them. This little fellow is there, so we'll pop him up the top. All right, so that's our first two done. Those two are actually done. You see how this is working? Now we might do this guy next, so let's pick that up and we'll cut a full red square again. And as for the little dark area on that square, we'll place that on top of this square. So when you sort of move around your little bird, you don't really want that as a separate piece. You could do, but it'll have more stability if it's sitting on a piece. Now, I don't know my body colour yet, so we might just leave that for a moment. And I don't know his head, his beak. I just need to make a decision, or that one. So we might move to this decorative wing next, because we do know that. That's this beautiful fabric. I'm going to try and get a flower in there. And there is also a little red bit. Well, we don't know if it's going to be red, do we? Just make a decision, girl. So once again, the base, or the biggest part of this little block, is a full square. There we go. And that will sit there. Now let's make a decision. Are we going to use the pale pink? The pale. I'm going to use the pink. So I know I need a big one there. So I'm going to just use this little fellow as my template. Now this is directional fabric, so I need to be a little bit mindful of all of that too. So if you're using it, a directional fabric where your print is going all the one way, just keep your wits about you, because it might look a bit odd if suddenly you've got those shapes, whatever it may be on your fabric, going the wrong way. This is a great little project. When you're working on such big projects all the time, it's lovely to have little ones to sort of play with. So this guy, let's just pop him back. This one has two triangles coming off of it. So I'm going to, how can we do this so it looks even? I might fold that in half. This is purely to get two triangles the same shape. But, you know, don't sweat details, you know, just, I'm probably being more finicky than I did when I started the project. So that will sit on that block, that's that one, and this little guy will sit on this block. That's that little fellow there. There we go. So this is going to be a lot further over. All right, so what will we do next? Now I guess we've got our head colour selected. Let's get this block into position, and then we might do the beak. So just take your time, one block at a time. If you have worked out exactly, or you're not too worried about where your little bird's sitting on your base fabric, you could be gluing and pinning as you go, which is probably a good idea if you're sitting at the couch with a tidy tray in front of you making little birds. But I'm still sort of forming my ideas here. So I'm wondering if I could get a beak out of that. I would say I could. Can't be too hard, so I might just use this little scrap and square it up. And it's looking like it needs to be roughly that by that. It's fiddly, but it's fun. All right, so that goes back. So you've got to put them back into position, girl. Already I need to take a little bit off of that I've missed. Whoop, spin it around. And there's his little beak. And we need to take, whoop, 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 whoop. Actually, that probably could have been his beak up there. The more you look at these patterns, it's like those puzzles where you get, I'm going to lift him up now because I believe we are getting very close to positioning some of these blocks. So remember, we wanted his beak right up where that dot was. It's like these puzzles, move the matchstick 3 times to get, you know, solve the puzzle. That's what this sort of feels like. The more you look at it, the more ways you'll see to create it without like making too much mess, and using your fabrics, I guess, to the best of their, what am I trying to say? You know, not wasteless is what I'm trying to say. I was concentrating on making sure I got him. Look at him. Isn't he a bit of a flash looking birdie? We might do this block next because I can see that triangle is also down here. But I think I want, oh yeah, or down there. There, okay. We need 2. That one and that one, that one and that one is all part of 2 blocks. So that's good. Let's just remember it's directional, girl. Don't be saying one thing and doing another. So like I said before, if you know where he's going or he's just in the middle of your base fabric, you could be pinning and gluing as you go. You could even stitch as you go as well, but I didn't. I got them all into position, so I'm just concentrating on one task at a time. Okay, so there's 1. Now we can do 2 blocks, which will give us half pieces. So it makes you revisit your old quilt patterns. Now, if you've put a block into something, you can literally take a look at it and go, well, I could forget about the sewing machine, and I'm just going to do that by eye, and revisit all these great blocks that you've made, or say you've got them in books and you've never got around to the quilt, but the block caught your eye, you could slow stitch your blocks into pieces. From my days of quilting, to go back and do all this again, oh, I don't know if I could. So where'd that come from? Down here, didn't it? Okay. So we've got our 4 little elements that we can find homes for. So we can put that one up there. The only thing that might jigger me here is directional work. See, that one's a bit out of whack because of him. I might have to recut. Oh no, does it? What's going on? I've got that around the wrong way. I was thinking, why doesn't that line up? So careful that you keep your blocks. See, there's a directional issue. What did I do wrong there? Ah, I've cut it back to front. So we're going to need to redo him. Oh, this is a nice little challenge, isn't it? You're probably thinking, oh my goodness, I'm not going to do this. Give it a go. Maybe directional fabric is creating more of a challenge than you would prefer to have. Maybe I give up on the directional thing. Right, that will work. No, it won't. That one, and that one. Yeah, all right, we're giving up on the directional thing. But it doesn't look too bad. Or are they? Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Okay, so this little block here should have worked, but I've nibbled out too much off that. So I've taken too big of a slice. So what I'm going to do is use the block, and it's supposed to be there. So I had it A, around the wrong way, and B, I took too much of an angle off. But because I had it around the wrong way, the angle's not really a concern. It's just in the wrong spot. What twigged me is this didn't line up. I'm sure you guys probably spotted it. It's probably not the easiest projects to do if you're yibby-yabbering as well. That's better. That's got that shape of his head right. Therefore, this will match up. There we go. That there, that there, that there. And let's get that guy back. Okay, so we need to do this block here. And what I might do is make it in the red and then pop the decorative, I nearly said branch. So you could create a little piece where he's sitting on a branch, just a little slow stitch project. Maybe I'll do that to the little gold guy. He doesn't have a home yet. Maybe I collage around him, and so there's that block. Square it up a little bit. And it doesn't matter if it's a little bit on the wonky side, because there's no neatness of I want to capture that flower. So I'm just going to position a little bit there. Yeah, there's no neatness of points coming together with this. The messier and the more relaxed he looks, the better, I think. Okay, so now we need a half. There we go. And that. Put it back. could do with, oh, I wonder if I could be cheeky and use that. Yeah, look, here we go. I'm going to slide that guy in. That was the one that I cut too much of an angle. I'm going to slide him in. No one will ever know. And then use the other half of that wing. And no one will know that that's sitting underneath there, missing a bit. Beautiful. Oh, I love it. You can use a scrap. So that block is that, and it is just a square. So we can cut ourselves a full square. Some of the images of this little pattern, like there's thousands of quilts out there using this little guy. He's nothing new. The tip of this pretty wing is the same colour as that, is another way of doing it. You'll see what I mean when you start typing in bird quilt block, all the different variations. I don't have my tilde books with me at the moment, but I'm sure there's tilde patterns in there that would be easily adapted to this style. There we go, there's his wing coming together. So now we need this guy. When I made the gold one in a video just recently, I took the beak block and I just cut everything using that as my square and just glanced at all of these. I didn't actually pick up all of these little individual elements. So that's what gave me the idea that if you had a little block that you could create out of, say, for some reason I'm thinking a firm plastic, you know, you buy a men's shirt and there's that plastic film to the top of the box. That would be perfect to create yourself. Well, I guess it's like the templates that we buy for quilting, hexagon templates and things. So where was this going? There. And we only need half. I might make it just red. I'm being finicky. See that flower there? It would clash with those. So I'm going to go to the bottom side. You don't need to overthink it, but oh goodness, I tell you, it's getting shapes, twisting them in your mind to get them to sit right. There we go. Have we got him? Is there anything we're missing? We've got his decorative wing, his red little tummy. We've got the pieces that sit on top of other pieces. Yeah, I think we're there, guys. So the next thing I would do is grab my glue stick or glue or applique pins. Now, applique pins, let me just show you my little guys. They're those tiny ones. I use them all the time. You could definitely pin them, but pins are dangerous for me for some reason. So I'm going to now put the tiniest little, okay, it's blocked. It's because I didn't put the stopper back on and it glues shut ever so easily. So I might even just get around the right way, girl. Goodness me. Because once he's down, he's down. Okay. So you do not have to do this stage. If you're happy with him eventually becoming a little frayed and looking a little roughed up, don't need to do this. Main reason I'm doing it is for the ease of going to the couch later and stitching. Everything's in position. Now this little guy, So I'm sort of starting at the top of his head. Now you can hold it in your fingers and glue, but you can also just do a bit of selective gluing, whatever's easy. As long as he goes in the right spot's the main thing. Okay. Now this little guy, oh goodness me. I just recently trimmed my nails, so it's probably not easy now. I'm just going to do this little fellow onto the top. It saves him falling off, and I'll get to that square in a moment. I might do the same to this. You could probably use tweezers. Just don't have them with me, but that'd work. Couldn't imagine making this any smaller, but it'd be rather cute if you make some little baby birds. How finicky do you want to get? And if you're thinking you can see a bit of red and you don't want it, just trim it off. At the end of the day, we have the freedom, because we don't have to make tips and points and if you've never done quilting but you've admired it thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know if I could pull that off, well, this is halfway point. You get the effect and you can create some interesting features. It's like when we do journaling, we have fussy cut elements that we embellish our work with. That's what this is, sort of fussy cut birdies ready to go. So I'm just going to pop it into position. That one seems really big. I'll get away on myself a bit. That's better. Still too big for that piece there. No, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It gives us that nice, scrappy, slow-stitched, quilted little guy. Sort of just doing it by eye now. Might bite me in the bottom in a minute, but I think we're on our way now. See, that's easy. So pinning it is an option, but it'd be a lot of little pins in a very small area. Oh, I'd love to make a whole quilt just with hand sewing of little blocks like this. Imagine the blocks you could explore. Don't know how well it'd wash in a washing machine when you go to clean such a quilt. It'd probably be best as a decorative piece. Okay, so we might do his body, this one here, that'll help anchor. So I'm only using the smallest amount of glue just to hold the little guy. I love him. I think he is just adorable. I'm going to have to explore some other critters. A little red bird. Don't glue up there, girl. Where am I gluing? Yeah, I can go up there. So once this, if your glue's a little globby, just tap it to take excess away, because you don't want a big lump of it. This is my cheeky little square because we have a missing corner, but no one will ever know. Don't want much glue, just to hold it, just to tack it down. There we go. Oh, we're closing in on it now. Hello, baby. He's going to be perfect for my bunny panel. For those of you who've been watching me for a little while, you know that I'm working on that panel I started on Easter Saturday. Just felt like making a bunny. And the bunny is turning into a big panel with all sorts of influences from Japanese style stitching through to quilters, honouring the quilts, honouring camphor, embroidery. It's just a mishmash of everything. So my directional theory, be careful if your directions completely change there, but I don't care. That's good. It was really worked out quite well. So all I've used scrap wise, I've got one little wing left and that's it. So not a lot of fabric needed for our little fella, which is great. I can wrangle those pieces back into my little charm pack. I think these are called. Are they called charm packs? Can't remember now. My quilting days. Alrighty. So now that little bird is in position and all little panels are done, what we're going to do now is make it look like it's quilted. So I'm going to grab my thread. Now the only other tip really now is make sure you use a really fine needle. So I'm going to get Reg out. Reginald is my nasty little fine needle that often bites me. Now the reason I like using Reg for this is he is little and thin. So when you start stitching into these tiny little pieces, you're not going to be forcing like a crowbar through the fabric and potentially breaking a little point out. Does that make sense? The finer the needle that you can handle, the better. So now we're going to quilt it. We're going to pretend that it's a stitched block in a massive quilt and we're coming back to quilt it. Now see that little tip there? I'm going to pop a little bit of glue. If there's anywhere that's going to break down, it's those sorts of tips. So I'm just going to take a moment and just make sure they are all secure because I don't want him disintegrating on me. And it wouldn't take much. You only need a couple fingers to go, oh, look at the birdie, and rub their fingers all over your piece. Which is not a bad thing. You work, I like it to be touched and tactile. But we as creators can certainly, yes, hello Pepper. We certainly can do a few things to keep our work, you know, from breaking down. We've got to get all of our slow stitch pieces to last a couple 100 years so that they're all in a museum one day and they'll go, look at all these ladies that were stitching. There was like a big slow stitch movement. And our pieces will all be hanging in the Smithsonian one day. Or landfill, probably landfill. All right, so now I'm just going to come up in the corner. I might just zoom in. I'll try not to lose you. Isn't she beautiful? Hello, little girl. And I'm just going to work my way up and down as if I'm quilting it. And because I'm using Reg, the nice thin needle, I can get a nice straightish line, and I'm going to work around every little piece and quilt him. Now as for an eye, I haven't yet needed an eye. The little blue fellow, he's got a print in the fabric that was right where the eye would be. But by all means, you could put a bead or a French knot, or you could certainly, you know, put something in the spot of an eye. So where you've got a triangular piece, you're just stitching that triangular piece and you're following the shape of it. Where you've got a square, you're stitching the square. If you've got a triangular piece sitting on top of a square, so I'm just going to jump straight to the next little square now. You would stitch them individually of each other if you've got a triangle. Finish the sentence, girl. Sitting on top of a square. I don't often do tutorials like this, so I'm trying to behave myself as much as I can. I usually just turn the camera on and just play, and you guys just hang around with me while I do it. I don't know if I'm going to put the word tutorial on there. That means you're really showing what you're showing and knowing what you're doing. But it'll be handy to have this little video so that whenever this little guy pops up in my future, I can link it below and you guys can just watch how to make your little bird if you want to do a similar piece. So that's it. You could use a different coloured thread for each section. I was mucking around with lace the other day. This wing could be lace. Could be, you know, a completely different treatment. You could do this particular, we'll call it the decorative wing. You could do the decorative wing in stitch. Everything else is fabric, but the little wing is embroidered. See the possibilities, especially if you made it, say, a plain colour and then embroidered flowers onto his little wing like the flowers are printed on this fabric. Gosh, you could do so much with this little fellow. I'm sure you guys will be sitting there going, oh, I could do this, I could do that. Gosh, I would love a box full of these, just so I could grab them as needed and just insert him in. It's probably getting a bit out of hand doing that, but you never know. Great project to take if you're going away. So I'm sort of out there on his own. With that wing, so I'm going to actually knot it off. And I'm going to do one that has a piece attached to it, just to make sure you get the style of which to stitch. So see how we've got the colourful one and then that little fellow. So we're going to stitch the little guy first, and we're going to stay just on him, working our way around. Now, if you've been around for a while watching my channel, you'll know that I'm currently working through the Village Life series, which is a panel full of villages that Susanna from Vintage Blend Studio printed. Down the bottom of that panel is a series of shops. Now those shops I renamed into a fabric quilting theme. And then from the balustrading, I hung some mini quilts. And then on the side of the shops in a floral cluster, I put a quilt as a bit of a feature element. And I did a log cabin, I did a star. So same principle. That's sort of how this came to be. I went and found a block, like a log cabin or something, but made it in this fashion. So it still looks like a log cabin, but it was not stitched together like a log cabin. It was pieced together and then top stitched to give us a slow stitch element to it. So you can make then all sorts of blocks for your work. Log cabins would be beautiful, just little pieces stitched together with a top stitch like I'm doing. Oh, there's heaps. Gosh, when you start thinking about all the different, you could do hexagons like this. Beautiful. Okay, that is that little block done. So we've gone around the little triangle and then around what was left from that little triangle. So I'm just going to pop up here now and let's do this little guy. At least the red fabric you can see. See now my thread just caught that little triangle's tip. So I'm going to pop a little bit, just a tiniest little dab of glue there to hold that, because I don't want that tip breaking down on me. It'd be such a shame. Well, does it matter? Probably not. Okay, so let's get come on, Reg, don't fail on me now. I'll do this last little block with you, then I will pause the video. I'm going to toddle off, find myself a coffee and a biscuit, and I might finish stitching little bird. Especially this pale pink red is really not showing up the stitch. So there's no use you guys sitting with me, watching me stitch that and not see anything. So I'll just do this red section now. You can certainly rock your needle through your fabric, especially if you've got a fine needle like Reg here. Makes it a lot quicker. But if you don't want to do that, you can certainly do stab stitch. If your piece is sitting on quite a few layers, maybe you've got a wadding in there, you might need to do a stab stitch to control your direction of everything. Just take your time. Follow each one. Okay, there we go. I got enough for now. I need to end it off. Get a new thread. Well, that might be my cue to leave you alone for a split second. Finish stitching my little guy. And I'll come back with him finished. Okay guys, I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back. There he is, finished, my little bird. So, like I said, the stitching in on that pale is not real visible. So, as an idea, you could probably change that to the red, would look pretty. I just don't have any red cotton here in that fineness. I've got that red cotton, but yeah, that is really cool. I might even do that when it makes it to its piece. I might see if I can find a plummy raspberry red cotton and then redo that stitching so that it's a little bit more visible. So the variations of these little guys is endless. So I'm just ironing out that mark that I made on my little piece. So he fits in a very small spot. There we go. So there. I was just thinking about lace and all of that too, and you could so easily work into him some decorative elements. Down his tail, that was upside down. Could put some tatting along his tail just to give him a little bit of trim. Oh, the possibilities, goodness me. I'll play with him more when he makes it to his final place on my Easter quilt. So there you go, guys. I might leave it at that. There's the 3 different versions. Little blue, little red, and little mustard. Okay. All right, guys. I look forward to seeing what you think. Give me a like. If you press the thumbs up, the like button, that'll tell Mr. YouTube that the video is worth watching, and he'll flick it around the place and others can go, oh my goodness, I don't have to quilt it with a sewing machine. I've admired this little guy for ages, but never ever tried him because I thought, oh, it's just too detailed for me. So to have a piece now that I can do in my slow stitching, it just opens up so many possibilities. There's little houses out there. Oh, there's heaps. I've got to get my nose into my Tilda books and see what panels. There's a flamingo I saw some time back. Oh, there's heaps of them. All right, guys, enough yibby yabbering. I'll leave you alone now and enjoy your day. Bye.